Take a look at the scene near WSU in Pullman tonight. Grand Avenue looking more like a river, the result of heavy rains and swollen creeks and rivers.
Yeah, and take a look at this video of firefighters rescuing someone from a building with the help of heavy equipment. Pullman police say multiple evacuations are taking place.
And all that rain has prompted flood warnings and flood advisories for Pullman and Moscow areas. I'll give you the latest as to when that rain is finally going to come to an end and when conditions will start to improve.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you here tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. We want to get straight to the significant flooding on the Palouse tonight. Pullman police advising that people should be avoiding the area of Grand and Stadium Way. Some people are even being evacuated still. Drivers also being told to find alternate routes.
So this video was posted on Twitter earlier this evening by the popular bar The Coug. There is significant flooding down Grand Avenue. Evacuations are underway tonight to help those unable to get out of a business or a vehicle. Matt Haugen from WSU Communications posted this video tonight. It shows firefighters using a front loader to rescue a man from a flooded building.
Now we've learned at least 4 businesses along Grand had to be evacuated. One alone meant turning off the power and rescuing 16 people. We're told several apartment buildings also have water inside, and once that water does go down, there is a lot of damage expected. Now here is a look at the flood area from the road from Grand Avenue. It stretches about 9 blocks, which is from Stadium Way to Whitman.
The Pullman Police Department have been posting updates on Twitter tonight as conditions change. They say the water is receding right now. That's the good news, but it's still a developing situation. WSU Pullman also tweeted out the roads may be underwater tomorrow morning, or they could be covered with debris, so people in that area need to use caution. We should point out at this point we have not heard any reports of anybody being injured, and first responders, they want to keep it that way. So if you can, police say, stay home and stay safe.
Now this is video that was sent to us by Crystal K. Gales inside one of those flooded businesses along Grand. This is the water rushing into Raleigh's ice cream shop, and you can see how fast that water was moving. You can also see when you look outside how deep the water really was around some of those cars in the parking lot. Crystal says everyone was obviously very scared, but they did make it out okay.
That's the good news tonight, right? Wow. Well, we want to get to our Casey Decker now. He is live in Pullman tonight near a pedestrian bridge by campus that some officials, Casey, are concerned about.
Yeah, Mark, right now this pedestrian bridge is the primary area of concern for the city of Pullman. That's because it's standing above the very still heavily rushing South Fork of the Palouse River. And I'm actually going to step behind here and kind of try to show you what exactly this river and this bridge are looking like right now. And you can see it is rushing pretty heavily. I'll zoom in over here, and it's pretty dark, but you can still sort of see, maybe not, that the bridge is above a very heavily rushing fork of the Palouse River right now. And one of the interesting things about this bridge is that it's actually designed to break away if the flooding gets up to a certain point. So that's something that they're monitoring right now to see if this bridge is going to break away. Although I am told by the city administrator right now, they're not too concerned that it's going to get up to quite that level. So this river, this waterway right now is still getting a little bit more flooded. Meanwhile, however, the Missouri Flat Creek around the corner, that one is receding a little bit, and that is the waterway that caused Grand to flood earlier. Now, as you guys mentioned, Grand flooding for several blocks from Whitman all the way up to Stadium Way, and that caused several apartment buildings and businesses to get flooded and have to even be evacuated. But like I mentioned, that area is receding. There's kind of just mud in a lot of the areas where there was flooding earlier. So right now, that area is not quite as much of a concern. Right now, they're focusing on this bridge here, making sure that this doesn't end up getting broken away. Now, in terms of cleanup, I'm told that right now the city still doesn't really know exactly how bad it's all going to be. So they're going to be monitoring it throughout the night and into the morning to see exactly what's going to be required there. This did kind of catch everybody by surprise, but the consensus seems to be that the first responders were on top of their game. They got those people evacuated. As you guys mentioned, nobody was injured. So even though a very surprise flood here in Pullman, at the end of the day, it seems that mostly just the businesses are the ones being damaged, and luckily no people. Reporting live from Pullman, Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
Casey, thank you very much. A lot to keep track of for sure. And we have been monitoring the flooding in Moscow, in Idaho, where roads are also in bad shape, many of them underwater. The city tweeted out just a short time ago, there is now a sandbag station at the Rosars parking lot. It is free and open to anyone who needs it. And of course, we'll continue to bring you updates as we get them. We'll also have a crew in Pullman for KREM 2 Morning News, and you can always follow us on Twitter and Facebook and on KREM.com for the newest information. In the meantime, if you do have any pictures or videos from the scene, please do send them our way. You can send them to newstips@krem.com.
All right, the big question now, is the water going to continue to rise or start to recede? It looks like it's beginning to recede. For more on that, though, we head straight to meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Thomas?
Yeah, very interesting situation in the Palouse, because while some of the flooded roadways, those will get a little bit better by tomorrow morning. But the rivers themselves will continue to rise because that water has to drain somewhere. And that's why there are still flood advisories for most of Whitman and Latah counties. But there's actually flood warnings, the darker green shades for Colfax, Pullman, and Moscow. That continues through all the way tomorrow because the rivers may still cause some issues that linger into the roadways and whatnot. But at least it has stopped raining, and that's why the immediate flooding concerns will start to slowly go away, but you don't want to risk it driving through any of those flooded roadways for this evening. Most of the showers east of Highway 95 in Idaho, still some light rain falling over Coeur d'Alene, but have not heard of any flooding concerns there. By tomorrow morning, most of the rain should be gone. For now, though, we get a break from the rain, but it may be short-lived because there are still way more weather systems off in the North Pacific that are riding the jet stream and will eventually make its way here into the Pacific Northwest. So I will help you time out when will be the dry hours, when will be the wet hours, and where the flooded conditions will go from here and into the weekend. That's coming up in a few minutes.
Sounds good, Thomas. Thank you very much. In other news tonight, to locals, it's simply known as the Amway House, and efforts to use the Post Falls Mansion for events or perhaps a bed and breakfast were halted tonight, at least for now.
Yeah, the mansion's been on the market for nearly a decade, so the owners decided to apply for a permit that would have allowed them and the mansion and the grounds to be used for things like weddings and special events. Many neighbors, though, opposed that idea over concerns about traffic and potential noise, and they packed tonight's meeting and for the Planning and Zoning Committee, and board members rejected the permit.
Just like each of the commissioners, as you're making this decision, to just picture your street and picture your kids out there on bicycles and, you know, somebody watering the flowers, and then there's an event.
The property itself is like it's an Inland Northwest icon type property. I mean, it's a real jewel, and something should be used. It should be used.
Now, the realtor says despite tonight's decision, he remains optimistic. He says he'll work to address neighbors' concerns and then reapply for a permit.
Well, Idaho is expanding Medicaid to about 90,000 low-income residents.
Governor Brad Little signed that bill into law today. It expands Medicaid to cover people earning about $17,000 a year or less. The state will now ask the federal government for permission to implement mandatory work requirements for those covered under Medicaid. Voters approved Medicaid expansion with 61% of the vote in November, but the initiative did not include work requirements. Last month, a judge struck down work requirements in Arkansas and in Kentucky. Well, headlines like these have a lot of you asking questions about Washington's Real ID. They say if you don't have a star on your ID, you won't be able to board a plane next year. Now, that's true for a majority of states, but not for Washington.
Nope, because Washington does not use a star, but that doesn't mean the state isn't following new federal regulations. KREM 2's Alexa Block looked into how Washington will comply with federal ID laws.
I'm just so excited about a trip that I'm taking to the East Coast next year. But I'm kind of worried too. I've been hearing about all this Real ID stuff, and I'm concerned that my Washington state license won't get me on a plane. Well, Alexa, after October 1st of next year, your standard license won't get you on a plane. You'll need an enhanced license here in Washington. According to a spokesperson with the Washington Department of Licensing, this is how Washington complies with federal law. Take a look up there. It says enhanced. That means you've been able to prove that you're a citizen. The Washington Department of Licensing has a list of required documents you need to do that. Alexa, that was some good information. But I have a friend who's coming with me and she lives in Idaho. How do they comply with federal Real ID laws? That's a really good question, Alexa. Idaho has the STAR card. You see that star up there? This means this ID has been issued with proof of citizenship. A majority of states who are in compliance actually use a star to identify real IDs. Washington looks to be the only state that hasn't adopted the star image. But no worries, Washington's enhanced ID is just like the star because both require you to show proof of citizenship. And both will get you on a plane. But as always, so will a passport. So if you don't have an enhanced ID, that will work too. Alexa, traveling is stressful enough without having to worry about whether you can get on the plane. Transportation officials encourage people to get the right documents early. Well, thanks, Alexa. I learned a lot. And you can learn more at KREM.com. Alexa Block, KREM 2 News.
Thanks, Alexa. I learned a lot too.
So informative. I need to have more conversations with my ID.
I know, if only it worked that way.
Sure.
All right, still ahead tonight, Spokane County Fire District has a new addition to its fleet. They just purchased their first aerial ladder fire truck. We'll tell you how it will help the growing area around Deer Park coming up.